Good evening, everybody. It is week 3, Digital Cinematography 2. I'm your host this evening, Professor Walsh, and welcome everybody to this week's live session where we will be discussing aspects of camera movement with regards to your coursework for week 3, Los Angeles Film School Digital Filmmaking BA. Okay, let me move my control panel out of the way here. Thank you for attending. If you are live, I'll handle questions at the end of this session. If you are checking in at a later date, you can obviously access this recorded video in your week 3 live session view video portion of the week 3 assignment list. Week 3 unfolds like so. So, you've registered, you're here, we're doing our go-to. We have our community discussion board. Each week now, since week 1, we've had the community discussion board. I also post these in my other classes as well. This is your opportunity to network, folks, amongst yourselves, in conjunction with me, in conjunction with other students, where you can discuss any topic that you want relative to filmmaking within this forum. Doesn't have to be the coursework, doesn't have to be the assignments. It could be something you're working on outside of class, like a music video or a short film or a documentary. It could also be something that you are researching or something that you are putting out there as a discussion or as a means to gather information from your peers about a topic that might interest you. That would be a good place to do it, community discussion board. Check it out sometime. I know that some folks are using it, taking advantage of the opportunity. It's a good way to network, folks. You never know what good can come of it. The business is a pretty small place, believe it or not. Eventually, you folks will run into each other again if you are successful in the field. So why not meet here? Week 3 read and view, pacing through camera movement. What do we got here? We've got a chapter from the Blaine Brown book, chapter 11 on camera movement. And we have, I guess you could consider this an extensive reading. It's really not. It's broken down into sub-chapters, as you can see here. Give it a cursory look. It's from an excellent resource called Camera Movement in Narrative Cinema by Jacob Nielsen. It was a thesis paper on camera movement, and it happens to be one of the most comprehensive texts that I have found on the subject of camera movement. Typically, camera movement in cinematography is mentioned almost as an afterthought in just about every cinematography textbook that I have been exposed to. And I really find that that's unfortunate, because camera movement is one of the most distinctive ways to make your images cinematic, as opposed to, well, let's face it, amateur or journalistic in a way that, and not in a good way though, in a way that's more less structured, less dogmatic, less refined, let's say. Many YouTube videos are simply hacked together by individuals who don't really take into account the frame, the composition, the lighting, that can move their work from pedestrian to professional in a visual way that indicates that you're dedicated to craft. So I found this this resource very very comprehensive, very instructive, even to me. I've been in the business 28 years and counting, and I found it very interesting to read, and I found much of what Jacob has to say very credible and easy to support. His conclusions are excellent, and I think that it's a good resource for you to, take a look at now, hold on to, and read from time to time, and really consider the points that he's making in that text, because it is, I think he's spot on. We also have a little blurb here from the American Society of Cinematographers from the Clubhouse series, Good Cinematography, Set Etiquette, and Staying Inspired. It's a good read, and it's also a good website. Since this is a cinematography class, I would recommend that you guys at least check out asc.com occasionally to see what's up in the world of cinematography, see who the movers and shapers are of the industry, and be aware that they're out there and they're doing the work right now that you folks are admiring and that you're going to see in the theaters. It's good to be aware of who the players are in the industry, what they're up to, where they're at all times. It's good professional practice. It's also a good way to stay abreast of current events and who's who. I've got some viewing here for you, a couple of interesting videos. Akira Kurosawa, one of the legends of the industry. This is an analysis of his movement techniques. It's a good one. I recommend you sit for it. It's only 8 minutes, but it's very interesting, very inspiring, and you'll probably recognize some of the work that he mentions in the video. DSLR Guide. This young man has an interesting video on movement as well, at just under 5 minutes. Check him out. He does come up with some good videos from time to time, and this is one of them I would recommend taking a look at. Your friend and mine, Tom Antos, Cinematic Camera Movement. I love Tom. Tom's been doing this for a while now, and I find his videos very entertaining, very honest, and they come from a good place. The guy's got a big heart, and I like that he is dedicated to sharing his results and his findings with folks in the industry and aspiring to be in the industry. Tom's got a great DIY work ethic, and I think it shows in a lot of his videos. Check him out. What else have we got? This is a great one too. It's an interesting video put together by Chris Fisher called Dolly Grip, and it's a neat montage of just pieces of film watching dolly grips in action from their day-to-day workload on set. It's almost like a music video. It's very entertaining. I would check it out. And then we have an interesting video here on the art of the Steadicam. So it's going to talk to you about the instrument, a little bit about the history, and then some of its usage on various films. Please consider the following videos from the Easy Effects Company as well. These folks are in Orlando, and they build and market a lot of their own products, including the Easy Effects Jib. This is an overview of their basic product. They've also got a 24-foot crane set up, and they have a power head demonstration and a slider. So check these videos out. It's neat to see products by companies out there working with independent filmmakers, trying to create the tools that you'll use on a day-to-day basis as you perform your craft and as you provide content for the industry, whether it's documentaries, interviews, music videos, or feature films. And you want to be aware of the folks that are out there in the marketplace that are creating tools for you to use to make your job easier. So Easy Effects, they're a great company. Again, out of Orlando. I'd check them out. So that's your read and view for the week 3 course here, Cinematography 2. Let's jump back to our assignment docket here and see what else we've got. So we talked about our read and view, pacing through camera movement. There's also at the end of each section, and some of you check this stuff out and some of you don't, but I always put an additional resources tab at the end of each section. And usually it goes in conjunction with your read and view if you want more information on topics. It's always out there for you to take advantage of. In this case, here's additional resources. I have some light reading beyond what's required for the week. This isn't required reading, but if you're interested, it is available for you to check out. Breaking Down the Shots from the Filmmaker's Eye. The Filmmaker's Eye is a great book. It's very visual, not a lot of text. And he goes through the variety of different shots that the cinematographer has in his repertoire, or her repertoire for that matter. um, and what they look like, how they're framed, and what the compositional rules are that apply to each of those types of shots. We've also got a film.com article, watch some of the obvious and not so obvious hidden edits in Birdman. We talk about Birdman this month as it pertains to camera movement because it's one of those unique films that came out the year before last. It was shot by Emmanuel Lubetsky. Um, and it involves Michael Keaton and the cast of Birdman, who are all theatrical actors and producers in the world of Broadway in New York, and it follows their hijinks through about 2 hours of drama and action as it unfolds behind the scenes in an off Broadway play. Um, and it's a very interesting backdrop for a film. It's very colorful. It's very kinetic. There's a lot going on. A lot of actors coming in and out of the scenes, doing great work. It's entertaining. It's quite funny, and it's unique in that it has been produced and constructed in such a way to give you the impression that it was all one continuous scene that unfolds through the duration of the film. There are some hidden edits in the process. It would be virtually impossible to do otherwise. Um, and this little article discusses the technique and the hidden edits, and then we've got a little video to accompany that, about 8 minutes long, about the secret edits of the film that you probably missed. It says secret edits you probably missed, and it's on the film Birdman. So check that out. And we also have a video from script to screen, the making of the film Gravity. Very interesting, just under 6 minutes long. There's some very interesting aspects of the making of Gravity that I thought you might be interested in, specifically under the topic of camera movement. There's a great deal of information about the motion capture process that they use, the previs um, and the interactive and projection techniques that they use to create the environments of outer space, and specifics on how they move the camera to accommodate the feeling of being in the weightless zero-G environment. And to go along with that, in conjunction with the discussion on equipment that makes our camera movement possible, here's a few things from the Chapman Leonard Company. They are a professional camera movement service provider. They rent dollies and cranes, jibs, sliders, and a variety of equipment to the film industry at the professional level, all for our studio productions to accomplish excellence in camera movement. They've been around for a number of years. They're one of the major players in Hollywood, and they produce some of these little videos for you on their products. Here's the hybrid dolly. That's a mainstay in Hollywood in terms of camera support. Virtually every movie shot in Hollywood or in New York or in any of the major production centers has a dolly on rent for the production. It's a major point of contact and camera support for the film, and it moves the camera in a variety of ways. You'll see the hybrid dolly in action here. There's also a little blurb on the Cobra dolly, another variation on the studio dolly support system. We have the Chapman hydroscope, which is a variation of the Techno crane, which has become a principal tool in use in the film industry. It's an automated robotic crane that allows the operator to produce shots that are reminiscent of dolly moves, but also add the dimension of height, and that's extraordinary height. The average dolly has a pedestal reach of about 3 to 4 feet, and the hydroscope and the techno cranes that are available and out on the market have elevated reaches anywhere from 18 to 100 feet. So the techno crane, or in this case the Chapman hydroscope, have added a really interesting new dimension to camera movement. Check it out. It's not a very long video. And then here's some information on Hollywood Rentals, now MBE in Orlando, and in Los Angeles, they rent Fisher dollies, which is a comparable product to the Chapman product. The same idea, they have studio dollies, large and small, as well as their own line of techno cranes and jibs. And then lastly, here's a fun little video with Shane Hurlbutt. And many of you might know Shane from his own website, Hurlbutt Visuals, and his Inner Circle videos that he produces. This is one of those on a hood mount product from Matthews, a new product that came out last year, and Shane's talking about it and how you can use the Freedom car mount to mount cameras to the hood of a car and do what we call running shots, which are shots in a car while the car is underway with talent inside. So it's a neat video. It's something that you might find yourself wanting to do at some point in your films, and Shane gives you at least one solution to solving the camera mounted or the car mounted camera conundrum, and how you can produce coverage of a conversation in and around actors driving in a car. So check that stuff out. This is all your additional resources. I hope you enjoy it. It does run, at least topically, concurrent with what we're discussing this week. But it is in the event that you needed a little bit of an extra challenge or you want more information on the subjects that we're covering. It's not required, but hopefully it is entertaining and interesting for you if you do take up the challenge. So having said that, let me hop back over to our assignment docket here and see what else we've got. The Cinematographer Spotlight. That's something each week in Cinematography 2. I like to have the Meet the Cinematographers portion of the week, which I'll introduce you to each week a pair of different cinematographers. Week 3 happens to be Emmanuel Lebetsky and John Alcott. And so what I do is I introduce you to the 2 cameramen that I've selected. I show you their websites if they have one, their IMDb resumes, so you can be aware of what films they've worked on, and then a reel if it's available for you to take a look at their work. And keep in mind, you folks will be producing reels as well by the end of this this curriculum here at Los Angeles Film School. One of your last classes will be portfolio class. And in that class, you'll be asked to build something similar to what we've got here from El Chivo. This is a 4-minute piece of video footage with some of his best shots edited together and set to music. It's designed as a promotional piece, and it's also something that he might show when he is going on a job interview. Believe it or not, even directors of photography at his level sooner or later are going to go into an interview with a producer they've never worked with before, and that producer is going to want to have some sense of what this director of photography can do, and the reel is an excellent way for that person to make their introduction. So check out Chivo's reel, and then I've got a little featurette from his recent work on The Revenant. You've probably heard of that film with Leonardo DiCaprio, directed by Maestro Inarritu, shot down actually shot up in, I believe they were in Alberta, in Calgary, and in Argentina. Also shot by Emmanuel Lebetsky. A little bit of behind the scenes and so forth on that feature film that won the Academy Award last year. Best cinematography and I believe best director. Here's a rare interview with the maestro in something called Starfall, and I believe that was something that he did right after he finished the film Gravity. That might be interesting to you. Mr. Lebetsky is a very interesting character in that he's won 3 Academy Awards for cinematography, and he's done it in a way that has never been done before. He's won them back-to-back in 3 consecutive years, starting with his work on Gravity, leading to Birdman, and then to The Revenant, each one of those winners of Academy Awards for cinematography. So check out anything you can on El Chivo here. That is Mexican for the goat. And of course, we all know that if you're a goat, you are the greatest of all time. So check out Mr. Lubetzky. Here's some information on Mr. John Alcott. He's also an esteemed cinematographer in the world of film. He shot the most recent installment of the Mad Max series, and Mr. Alcott was also involved. I'm sorry, Mr. Alcott did not shoot the Mad Max series. Mr. Alcott was one of Stanley Kubrick's favorite choices for cinematographer. I apologize for that little slip of the lip. That recent installment of Mad Max, the honor would go to cinematographer John Seal. So my apologies to John Seal for that oversight. But John Alcott, here's an interesting interview with him and the photography of Barry Lyndon. If any of you are Kubrick fans out there, you'll know that Barry Lyndon was the film starring Ryan O'Neal, where he plays an unsavory gambler in the European, what should we call this? Is it the Elizabethan period, perhaps? And it's notable for the many shots that were staged as interiors exclusively under candlelight. The legend is that Stanley Kubrick approached NASA and asked to borrow one of their extremely light sensitive lenses, a 50 millimeter T1.0. It was a surveillance lens, I think, or a lens from a satellite that had extremely powerful light gathering capability, and you could use it in extremely low light situations. Very high resolution lens, and Stanley Kubrick had it modified to work on a Panaflex camera. And Mr. Alcott was the cinematographer lensing that film. So there's a little interesting little blurb on 6 kinds of light, the photography of John Alcott. So that's the Meet the Cinematographer session for this week. And it's interesting because it goes in conjunction with another exercise that we have you folks do, which is your Cinematographer's Spotlight, which I thought I had pulled up here, but I guess I don't. Each week you are asked to produce a research paper called the Cinematographer Spotlight, and in doing so, what you're doing is working off of a list of cinematographers that I've provided for you in week 1. We call it the Cinematographer's Directory. You can download it as a PDF under your download section. It's basically a running list of the active cinematographers from the American Society of Cinematographers. You don't have to exclusively pick from this list, but if you pick off of the menu, you're doing okay, because each one of those cinematographers is vouched for and has made critical work that you can explore, and you'll find plenty of information on the internet in regards to those individuals. If you go with someone who's not on the menu, run it by me beforehand so that we can make sure that the person you're choosing has a repertoire worthy of a research paper for this class. The criteria would be this individual has to have, articles that reference his career and his techniques. At least more than one article. He has to have references on IMDb. He has to have a notable resume. He should have produced some films that are, if not in the popular vein, at least something that can be, again, referenced. Images can be snatched and grabbed from to use as supportive material for your paper and the points that you'll make in your paper. And the idea is to write a research paper on a cinematographer, a different one each week, where you will research that individual's career, the highlights of that individual's career, maybe where they received their education, any notable collaborations like directors that they work with on a regular basis, or directors that offer a unique point of view that bring this cinematographer's work to the forefront. Notable techniques by that cinematographer, notable tools. For instance, do they use exclusively technocranes or steadicams, or do they have an interesting and unique handheld method? And give examples of those techniques, as well as examples and discussion on their lighting style. what kind of lighting do they use, what kind of style do they like to portray, what types of movies are they filming, and how does their lighting enhance those works. So that's the Cinematographer Spotlight. You have 4 of those this month. It's week 3, so preferably week 3 might have a camera movement slant to it, but that's up to you. You've got 3 topics really to cover on each paper, so you can present it in whichever way you're comfortable with. It should be at least 4 pages, and that includes a bibliography. You can't do a research paper without research sources, and so those sources should be listed, referenced on your paper at the end in the form of a bibliography. Be nice to have a cover page on your paper with your name on it. You'd be surprised how many folks submit work to me without their name on it. Even though this is a digital environment and it is easier to track files, once you download a batch of files into one folder, it takes a little bit of investigation to figure out whose paper is whose, unless it's got your name on it. So please mark your work appropriately. Okay, having said that, let's move on to, last but not least, of course you will have a knowledge check, open book, of course, as it is every month. But we do have a project 3, which is camera movement, and I want to talk to you quickly about that. I did neglect to mention the discussion. Pace and camera movement discussion, that goes along with your read and view. And we're going to do a comparison of Emanuel Lubezki's work on gravity with his work on Birdman. And you can compare and contrast the 2 ways in which Mr. Lubezki has moved the camera dramatically to affect the tone of the piece, to impose energy into the viewing experience, to entertain, and to use the unspoken convention of camera movement to reinforce themes in the film. So we're going to compare and contrast those 2 films. Check out these trailers. If you get the opportunity to watch the full movies, that's even better, but at least watch these trailers if you haven't seen these films already. And the discussion will center on aspects of camera movement in those 2 films. And then, of course, our camera movement project. In this project, you're going to do a 2 to 3 minute video. At the very least, I want you to demonstrate the movement that we've covered in the month. That would be panning and tilting the camera with the use of your tripod and fluid head. You'll want to demonstrate either a zoom in and zoom out or a move in and move out, preferably. That'll involve a little DIY and a little out-of-the-box thinking. How are you going to move your camera and tripod through space if you don't have the benefit of a hybrid Chapman dolly or a Fisher dolly? There are ways to do it. Some people resort to the skateboard dolly method. Some people resort to simply using a skateboard or a wagon or a bicycle or a Segway, or sometimes it can be something as simple as pulling a ferny pad along the floor with your camera and tripod filming the action. So you see what you can come up with. Zoom in and zoom out can be done on your kit lens. The tracking shot, which is running parallel to the action, the dolly in and the dolly out running perpendicular to the action, in and out. Also the follow shot, which is usually handheld, the revealing shot, and the craning shot. So all of those shots are discussed in the read and view and in the videos that you'll be dealing with this month. See if you can incorporate as many of those as you can into your camera movement project. This project is designed to make you think. It's designed to make you think more about camera movement. It's also designed to help you think about how to achieve movement results with limited means. Okay? I don't know. Some of you, I've had students who have gone so far as to incorporate gimbals, things like Ronins or glide cams. Some of those are accessible to purchase. They're also very easy to rent. You should check out the internet and look for places like Lens Depot or the Lens Pal or Places like, VER Production Services in Orlando. There's also, a variety of rental houses in LA, for instance, digital film studios, places like that where you can rent gimbals, cranes, and jibs and so forth to accomplish camera movement. It's not always about DIY. Sometimes it's as simple as renting a piece of gear for the day from a rental house. You should have a relationship with a rental house anyway if you're a working professional. See what they have to offer. Check out the video on Hollywood Rentals and MBE. There's a Hollywood Rentals in many cities across the country. There's one here in Orlando. There's one in Atlanta. One in Austin, Texas, I believe. There's certainly one in Los Angeles. They have satellite offices in New Orleans and in New York. They're everywhere that you are in many and most cases. Check it out. There's also a little blurb for you to read to inspire you, hopefully, on your camera movement project. It's an article from The Guardian on the HBO television drama True Detective. It's from the first season, the 7th episode, I believe it was. And the article is entitled How We Got the Shot. Cary Fukunaga, the director and the writer of the episode on True Detective's tracking shot. It was the famous oneer that the camera followed Matthew McConaughey through gangland in the hypothetical city in Louisiana that they were based in. And it's a very interesting shot following Matthew McConaughey in and out of a gunfight on the let's say the unsavory side of his town, where he's looking for a perpetrator, and he has to go undercover and underground, and it's all about the scene and how it unfolds with a pretty hairy gunfight and a harrowing escape. So check it out. It's a pretty famous scene. It put the HBO series on the map after it aired. It created a flurry of internet commentary, and it was a good show to check out all around. We've also got a clip. This is actually this is the episode. It was called Who Goes There? The clip is 6 minutes long. This is the actual shot from the TV series. And then we have a similar shot from our friend Emmanuel Lubetsky from his film Children of Men, and it's the miracle ceasefire scene towards the end of the movie. This one was done, the True Detective shot was done handheld. The Lubetsky scene, Miracle Ceasefire, was done with the Easy Rig. And we have the now famous Omaha Beach scene from Saving Private Ryan, which was not only handheld, but it was also filmed with a process called skinny shutter on a Panaflex, which gives it a unique visual texture as well as accompanying the gritty handheld nature of the shot. So these are some pretty famous scenes by now from the world of professional studio cinema, and hopefully they will inspire you to do something unique for your own project. Let this sort of be a signature opportunity for you to show me what you've learned and apply what you've learned to the concept of camera movement. I wish you good luck with that project. I hope you have fun with it. Your instructions are downloadable at the bottom of the page. Experimenting with camera movement. This will just tell you how to go about it, what you're going to need, how to compose your shots, some suggestions for you, and then your submission notes so that you can get it into me on time on Sunday evening. I wish you good luck with that. Everybody seems to enjoy that project. I've gotten some pretty unique and interesting solutions, and maybe I can show some of them to you next week in the go-to session, so you can see what some of your colleagues are doing in the realm of camera movement. So that's all I have for you this evening. If you have any questions or comments, as usual, you can send me an email through the LMS, or you can reach out to me by my office phone. Leave me a message. I will call you back. I'm available to you most days. If I don't respond to you right away, I will get back to you. And we can set up additional go-to sessions if you want additional FaceTime to discuss challenges that you're having with some of your coursework, or questions that you have, or advice that you may need. So I am here for you. Good luck on week 3, and I look forward to speaking to you again for week 4. Until then, this is Professor Walsh signing off, and have a good weekend, everybody. Thanks. Thanks for coming.